As of a few weeks ago, the licensing industry forever changed, with Crunchyroll becoming the biggest in the market and Funimation fading into the wind. There are lots of questions, so we're gonna try to answer all of them to see how this affects everyone. First off, Funimation is officially dead, with their entire catalog being moved over to Crunchyroll. There's just so much that it's gonna take some time. The Funimation website is still gonna be around, but it will no longer be updated with any new seasonal anime, since those will be headed to CR starting this season. It's only after all their anime is finally moved that the website is gonna be shut down, since the brand shift seems to have been in the works for a while with how fast the name is being scrubbed out. Within the week of the announcement, the Funimation YouTube channel getting turned over to Crunchyroll dubs, and 2 weeks later their logo already appearing on upcoming releases. And with the store being closed on the 5th, the last days of Funimation are very quickly approaching. Yeah, it seems like great news since there's now one less streaming service to think about, and most of the anime out there is now all in one place. Something that people have wanted for years. So isn't this good? And why lean on Crunchyroll when Funimation was just as recognized? While both brands have their own baggage, it's fair to say that Crunchyroll didn't have nearly as much controversy compared to Funimation, since they were just a streaming site for their entire lifespan. Funimation had so many within the last 5 years that even if some were minor, it didn't help their brand and just continued to taint it. It was just easy internet points to bash on them because of the narrative of evil company ruining your anime. That's how bad it got. Even though it was never that simple, but I'm gonna stop right there since if I say anything positive about them, some of you are gonna drop them dislikes, which still proves my point. But that's why they made their choice. While Funimation has 20 years of history pioneering anime into the West, Crunchyroll has a much cleaner brand that fits into the modern day better. They're known as the anime streaming site since they've been doing it the longest, so Sony decided to lean into that, unifying all the other brands that fit into that niche, making the site international since they bought the streaming services for Australia, Anime Lab, and the French one Wakanim, with Funimation included, making them license a majority of the anime in the world with no competition. So there's no other alternative to watch anime legally. There's no reason to improve anything since no one is rivaling them, which means they can do whatever they want since the consumer doesn't have any options. They very much know that since they took advantage of it immediately with the announcement of the ad-supported model being stopped for this season of anime. They'll become accessible at a later time, but them announcing this the same month after the merger shows they know what they're doing. With the influx of new users from Funimation, they saw they won't be losing much money cutting this feature. But it's still just a massive blow to the consumer to get rid of an option that allows them to experience something even if they don't have the capital to do so. And since they took out all the other streamers around the world, this affects everyone. Piracy is even more relevant than ever, but with how much they're making, they don't really care, which is so ironic since anime is the most pirated form of media. That's been slowly decreasing over the last decade, and now it's gonna spike, but this time for a very valid reason. But what if all this means better pay for the folks behind the scenes that help us understand the anime? Crunchyroll is now worth millions of dollars, so they can easily make their lives better, right? Not really. While Funimation had a lot of controversies, none of them to my knowledge were about how much translators got paid. CR has the worst rates, and now that Funny is being rolled into it, it's unlikely they're gonna shift the pay to theirs. Most likely, another reason why the merger leaned into Crunchyroll's direction. With less companies also means less options for the translators, and with mergers also comes layoffs. Since both had their own set of translators, now that they're one company, they don't need that many. So a lot of people are going to or have already lost their jobs, and the ones that are lucky enough to keep it are now stuck with awful wages. A translator for Funimation telling Anime News Network that they were informed they were no longer getting work 2 days before Christmas, only 2 months after they increased their rates. There's a really good video by the Canapa Effect that if you haven't seen, I'll link it below if you want a better understanding about all of this. Crunchyroll haven't taken out all of the licensors, but the few that are still here aren't really competing with them since they weren't even the size of Funimation. They've taken over the industry that they can now easily squash the competition of anyone who even tries to be in the same market. Something similar happened in the early 2010s with newer companies that failed because of how many players were in the game. But now, because of a single one that's rigged the game from the start. And we can see it with Sentai, who their entire catalog was removed the same month as the merger. Something that coincided a little too perfectly. Most of the list doesn't even have multiple seasons and were acquired before High Dive was even a thing. But they most likely broke all of these deals, since the few that do would force users to go to their site. And the others would still be free advertisement if you wanted to buy any of them on physical media. It doesn't even end there. The months before, Sentai announced that their seasons of Haikyuu were going out of print, meaning that the rights are most likely going to switch to the only other brand that is associated with it, Crunchyroll, stripping them of a series they helped get out there. It's most likely going to happen with Food Wars, and what's going to make them stop there? What if they get Made in Abyss? What if they just take everything, leaving them with titles that are very obscure to the point that they begin to struggle? This is actual hostile takeover behavior, but in a way that doesn't require them to spend money on the competitors themselves. Reminders that these tiny licensors like Sentai and G-Kids pay their translators so much better and even credit them. Something that CR has never done in its decade of existing. This isn't even getting into the low wages dub actors have to deal with, that they recently started speaking up about after they became the biggest anime company in the world. Something that their main competitor Netflix has been besting them on for half a decade. The point is that even if you didn't like all the streamers, it was a necessary evil that helped the industry. And out of all the companies, Crunchyroll def wasn't the best one to take over it. Their phrasing making it look like a win for the consumer when their approach is meant to optimize income at the cost of everyone else. The only one that benefits is them. But that's what everyone wanted, right? All your anime in one place, and well, we finally got it. But maybe we were never meant to get that.